Be a thought leader. Grow your knowledge community. Create more mind reach. E. Extension. Imported Fire Ant Introduction in Biology, a teaching module for advanced Master Gardener training. Where are imported fire ants from? Where are they found in the U.S.? Imported fire ants are originally found in Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina of South America. In the United States, fire ants are found throughout the southeastern United States, on into Mexico, Texas, and California. Fire ants are also found in Puerto Rico. Based on estimates, the black imported fire ant, Solenopsis richteri, was introduced in 1918. This was first introduced in Mobile, Alabama. The red imported fire ant, Solenopsis invicta, followed in the early 1930s. These two species have been able to mate and hybridize. Imported fire ants currently infest 330 million acres in the United States and are now considered to be the dominant ant species in the southeastern United States. They have no natural enemies native to the United States, which has allowed for their expansion and pest status. Imported fire ants are the most destructive and costly ants in the United States. They thrive in habitats that are commonly disturbed either by natural or man-made disturbances. Imported fire ants are continuing to expand in the United States, and their final range has yet to be reached. A model has been developed to predict fire ant distribution using soil temperature and moisture as key indicators. Note how far up to the north, the east and west coast infestations are possible. Imported fire ants have also managed to survive in areas that were once considered too dry. They are able to do this because of the irrigation that takes place in these locations. Fire ants can be identified by their mounds, habitat behavior, and sting. Fire ants prefer to nest in sunny, open areas versus densely vegetated areas. Mounds are usually large, above ground, with no activity on the surface unless disturbed. Fire ant behavior is extremely aggressive. If disturbed, fire ants will emerge from their nest by the hundreds and climb vertical surfaces to sting. The fire ant sting is also a key for identification. Fire ant stings are painful and will leave a white pustule at the site. It is not the fire ant bite that hurts. When stung, fire ants inject venom from a poison gland through their stinger. The minimum reaction a person will experience is the formation of a pustule. More serious reactions include localized swelling or anaphylactic shock. Fire ant adults are found in two forms: winged adults and workers. Workers are sterile females that have the ability to sting. Winged adults are both male and female. They will mate, and the female will become a queen and start a new colony. Adult fire ant workers have different morphs or sizes. This is called being polymorphic. Fire ant workers are in sizes major, media, and minor. They all vary greatly by body size. Major workers are often used in identification because of their large size. Not all ant species exhibit polymorphism. This illustrates the fire ant anatomy and major body parts. On the fire ant's head, you can find the mandibles. At the tip of the mandibles are the teeth, the antenna, and a compound eyes. On the thorax or alatrunk, fire ants have a prothorax, mesothorax, and propodium. The section that separates the thorax from the abdomen, or gaster, is called the pedial. These two nodes are called the pedial and postpedial. The abdomen of a fire ant is often called a gaster. At the tip of the gaster is the fire ant's stinger. These are the basic morphological features of insects in the Solenopsis genus. Solenopsis invicta, or the red imported fire ant, is a fire ant with a reddish to brown coloration. They have large eyes. The workers are polymorphic, meaning that they can range in size from 1/6 to 1/5 of an inch. Their waist has two nodes. They have no spines on their propodium. Their antenna is in 10 segments, ending in a 2-segment antennal club. Their gaster is brown and has a stinger. Fire ants are also extremely aggressive, which makes them very unique to other ant species. This compares fire ants to carpenter ants. Notice the coloration difference. Size difference is also significant. The number of antennal segments varies. Fire ants have a 2-segmented node, whereas carpenter ants have a single-segmented node. Carpenter ants also do not have a stinger on their gaster, whereas fire ants always have a stinger. This illustrates the relative size of worker ants of various species. Fire ants vary greatly. Major fire ant workers can be similar in size to big-headed ants and native tropical fire ants. Fire ant mating occurs on sunny days, usually within 24 hours of a rain. Temperatures must always be above 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Flights usually occur in the spring and the fall, but they may occur after any rainfall any time of the year. This illustration shows fire ants leaving the nest for a mating flight. Mating takes place 300 to 800 feet above the ground. After mating, a female will seek a moist or reflective surface on which to land. This is why fire ants are often found in pools after a rainstorm. After mating, the male dies. Females are very vulnerable to predators during and just after mating flights, especially to other fire ants. New colonies are founded by newly mated females. A newly mated female is now called a queen. Once a queen has landed, she will remove her wings, burrow into the soil, and begin to lay her eggs. She will care for these eggs as they hatch into immatures and workers. The first batch of eggs will grow up to be worker ants. This takes approximately 20 to 45 days. Worker ants are all sterile females capable of stinging. Workers begin foraging and constructing the mound once they emerge as an adult. At this time, the queen now has caretakers, and she will no longer care for anyone throughout her life. After the first batch of workers is grown, the queen will always be tended by her workers. A queen can live 5 to 7 years and lay eggs equal to her own body weight each day. A large fire ant mound does not pop up overnight. Mounds are often not visible until the first few months. Within 6 months, a small mound may become visible. This small mound may have up to 100,000 ants present. Mature mounds may be quite large. They are very distinctive in that they are cone-shaped. Mature colonies can contain 200,000 to 400,000 worker ants. Within the colony, workers are polymorphic, meaning that they are multiple sizes. This illustrates a typical fire ant mound. Extending from the main mound are lateral foraging tunnels. These foraging tunnels allow foragers to leave the mound in search of food. Along the foraging tunnels, you will find exit and entrance holes. Within the main mound, there are interconnected chambers. This allows workers to move food, immatures, eggs, and queens within the mound. Below the mound, deep tunnels reach down to a water source. This provides moisture to the fire ants. If the mound is disturbed, workers will always rush to save the queen and immature ants. Fire ants are very territorial and protective of their queen and colony. Within the colony, workers constantly move young fire ants and queen around the nest. This often happens more than once per day. This is performed in order to maintain a near constant temperature and humidity for the workers, immatures, and queens. A fire ant has complete metamorphosis, or a complete life cycle. This is a 4-stage life cycle. This includes an egg, larva, pupa, and adult form. Eggs are found within brood chambers of a mound. Eggs usually take 7 to 10 days to hatch into a larva. Larvae molt 4 times over a 12 to 15 day period. The first 3 instars are fed regurgitated liquid food. An instar is a term that delineates the stages between molts. Fourth instar larva, or the last instar before a larva becomes a pupa, is the only stage that can feed on solid food. The black arrow in the picture points to a piece of solid food in the food basket of a larva, which is found just below the larva's mouth. Fire ants eat a wide variety of foods, ranging from other insects to plants. They are excellent foragers and can find food in areas that are seemingly desolate. What do fire ants eat? Fire ants mostly eat other insects. They are predators. Fire ants will also tend to aphids and scale insects to feed on their honeydew. Fire ants will also feed on seeds and plants that produce oil. A good example are okra plants. Fire ant workers do not and cannot eat solid food. They feed by a process called trophallaxis. Foraging ants will bring solid food back into the nest. Ants pass the food to one another by regurgitating it from their crops. Adults pass liquid food around. The adults cannot digest solid food. The food is distributed to all members of the colony, including the queen. Remember, the only member of the colony that can consume solid food is the fourth instar larva. Large fire ant workers live about 90 to 180 days as adults. Medium-sized workers live 60 to 90 days as adults, and small workers live about 30 to 60 days as adults. Regardless of size, they change their jobs as they age. The youngest workers are called nurses. They stay within the interior portion of the nest and care for the queen, eggs, and immatures. Middle-aged workers are called guards or excavators. Their job is to excavate and guard the nest. Foragers are the oldest workers. These ants will leave the nest in search of food and other resources. The pattern of development is similar for both workers and reproductive or wing stages. Males always develop from unfertilized eggs. Female reproductives get special food and hormones, which allow them to become female reproductives instead of female workers. There are 2 types of colonies of fire ants: single queen colonies or monogyne colonies, and multiple queen colonies, also called polygyne colonies. Single queen colonies are very territorial and aggressive toward other fire ant colonies. Their lifespan is limited within the colony. Multiple queen colonies are not territorial or aggressive toward other fire ants in other colonies. They will often adopt new queens. These colonies are usually very long-lived. Monogyne queen colonies or single queen colonies are found at densities of 15 to 80 mounds per acre. This is up to 7 million ants per acre. There is always only one queen found per colony. These worker ants are very territorial towards other fire ants. Monogyne colonies are found in all southeastern states in the United States. Polygyne queen colonies or multiple queen colonies are found at higher densities of 200 to 800 mounds per acre. This is up to 14 million ants per acre. More than one queen is found in each colony. Colonies can reproduce by budding. These worker ants are not territorial toward fire ants of other colonies. This is the predominant form of colony in Texas. For more information about fire ants, please visit the eXtension Fire Ant webpage. This can be found at www.extension.org/fire+ants. On this website you may find publications, slide sets, streaming videos, posters, and much more, all related to imported fire ants. Thanks to the Texas Imported Fire Ant Research and Management Plan, Texas A&M University System for the use of many of the images used in this presentation. Portions of this presentation were made possible by a grant from the Southern Region Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Professional Development Program. Authors of this presentation include Carrie Smith, Molly Keck, Bart Dries, David Williams, and Ken and Rufina Ward. We would like to acknowledge the following reviewers: Dale Polay, Karen Bale, Chaz Hesseline, and Kathy Flanders. Thanks also to the editor and technical facilitator, Neil Lee.